If you've been on the internet for at least 15.5 minutes, you're probably at least somewhat aware of what an image board is. These sites, much like everything else posted online, contain vast amounts of information, most of it pretty unimportant. But sometimes someone comes along and passes around some intel that you didn't know you needed, but after having heard it, you can die happily. There are plenty of Greentext stories to go through, so I think we should kick things off with a bang. This is the prolific story of Neal, his impressive ability to screech, and his journey through his many trials and tribulations. Okay, B, I'm going to tell you my own personnel tard story, the story of Neal. Being in 5th grade, being an AI class, it's like advanced shit for smart kids. The teachers decide it's a good idea for us to spend the day with the tard kids because we were ahead of schedule for the marking period. I had never seen a tard previous to this encounter, so I didn't know what to expect. Walk into the tard HQ. It seems to be a regular classroom filled with ugly-ass kids. Everybody is assigned their own personnel tard to talk to. I get assigned to Neal. I walk up to the tard and say, "Hello, I'm Phil." "Hey, Phil." One fluid word, "Hey, Phil." He says this whenever he is within 30 feet of me, and it becomes my only warning of the inevitable oncoming shitstorm. Sit down and see he is cutting paper. Ask him what he's doing. What? The tard starts to make this screeching sound. The only thing I can compare it to is the sound of a fucking raptor. A fat downy tard runs up to us. "Stop it!" Neal gets up and continues his raptard roar directly in her face. Downy tard goes batshit, engages tard strength, and flips the entire table over. Neal not only continues his tard roar, but moves closer to Downy child. Down kid starts screaming and tries to run for the door. Forgets to open it and smashes into it head first. Knockout. Neal silences his roar, sits down and continues cutting the paper as if nothing had happened. Oh my what the JPEG? Tard Wranglers run in and retrieve Neal, and the Downy child. They are both sent home. After our first faithful encounter, I hadn't seen Neal for a while, so this story takes place about 3 months after my previous story. Be walking down the hall with friends to lunch, talking about usual 5th grade shit, Pokemon and whatnot. Hear a faint yet memorable voice. "Hey, Bill." Don't answer. Pretend I don't hear nothing due to the events of last time. Hear the sound yet again, except this time it is directly in my ear. "Hey, Bill." He had just appeared on my side, and he had to be at least 30 or so feet in the other direction previously. This speed will come into play in later encounters. Wave awkwardly to him. "Hey, Neal." He extends a bag of Cheetos he had in his hand in my direction. "Want some?" "No thanks, Neal." My friend, not knowing the kind of devastation Neal is capable of, reaches over and grabs one of the Cheetos out of the bag without asking. Neal looks up with pure malice. "Oh fuck, not again." Approaches my friend deliberately looking into his eyes. Engaged raptard roar. This time it was in short bursts. It appears as if he has different roars for different situations. Friend says, "What's wrong with him?" Say nothing, as I do not want to feel Neal's wrath. Friend backs away as Neal approaches, chewing the Cheeto. Neal lets out one last violent tard roar and hurls himself at my friend, knocking him over. He rams his hand into my friend's mouth and retrieves the liquidy remnants of the Cheeto while continuing his tard roar directly in his face. Stands up and eats a liquidy half-eaten Cheeto after silencing his roar. Tard Wrangler comes speeding down hallway and grabs Neal by the wrist to pull him back to Tard HQ. Waves at me. "Bye, Bill." Not a single ounce of regret or any emotion for that matter in his eyes. I wave at him in utter awe. Bye, Neal. Neal Part 3. Battle of the Tards. You see, Neal mainly kept to himself. He did not like his tard kind, but he extremely disliked one tard named James. This is the first of their battles that I saw. Be in 6th grade now. New AI teacher is very avid tard supporter. We are now going to help the tards out once a week for the entire year. I enter the tard HQ and see Neal in the corner. Hasn't grown an inch since last year. Turns out he will remain 5 foot for his entire life. He looks as if he is in total concentration reading a book. I walk up to Neal. "Hey bud, what you reading?" Gives me one of those toothy tard grins. "Hey Bill." Sit next to him and look at the book. Dr. Seuss, A Cat in the Hat. A skinny, tall tard walks over toward us. I could tell he was a dick from the first second I saw him. "What are you reading, Neal?" Snatches book out of Neal's hand. "This book is for babies." Neal gets up. "Give it back, James." James holds it above his head. "Take it." Neal's rage is apparent. It is that kind of 1,000 suns. Neal sounds his raptard screech. This is slightly different from his roar. Its sole effect is to piss off other tards. "Stupid, Neal, take your dumb book." Too late for that, bud. Neal continues to approach with his fist above his head as far as he can reach. Screech continues. At this point, Tard HQ is compromised. Tards are going crazy. Crayons and shit is being thrown. One tard is crawled into a ball in a puddle of piss. AI class is told to evacuate. I stay to watch imminent lulls. James is now clenching his ears for dear life. Neal is finally within striking reach of James. He throws his mighty fist down into James's nuts with the accumulative force of 1,000 banhammers. James drops and begins to throw up while on the magic carpet. Neal silences his screech, picks up the book James had stolen from him, and sits down to read it directly in James' puddle of throw up. But why? .jpg. He looks up at me with that toothy grin as I just stare. Tard Wranglers bust in. One grabs me to bring me to safety. The others grab the debilitated James and Neal. Neal screams after me, "Bye, Bill." I just watch as he is hauled off to the principal's office, not giving a single bit of resistance. That day was known as In Day up until I left for the high school. Neal Part 3. Be in second market period now. Neal had been suspended for pulverizing James's nuts. He's back now. I have started to look forward to our days helping the tards just because of Neal. Unfortunately, it's not that day. Be in art class. Teacher says we have a tard coming to our class from now on because the school has started a new integration program for tards. Neal walks through the fucking door. Class, this is Neal. Hello, Neal, we say in unison as I waved. Hey, Bill. Teacher lets him sit next to me because he knows me. James walks into class after him. Oh shit, neighbor.jpg. James is introduced to the class and is put at the same table as us just by luck. We are starting watercolor painting right now. Neal decides he wants to paint an apple, because that's what I was painting. James starts shit with us because he's a dick. Your apples look like shit. Neal ignores him because, well, he's fucking Neal and he doesn't give a fuck. James, obviously angered by being ignored by me and Neal, pours all of his paint onto my painting. Don't give a fuck, but Neal sure as hell did. Commence raptard roar short burst mode. This is when I found out the short burst means he's about to wreck shit. Neal throws all of his paint into James's eyes as the class looks on in horror. My eyes! James can't see shit, and Neal has now taken out Skittles that I assume were hid in the foreskin of his penis. I found out he was uncircumcised in a later incident, and begins pelting James with them. He's hurling these things at Mach 5 speed at him. James falls off the stool he's sitting on and brings the girl sitting next to him along too. Neal walks around the table, picks up the paint, and slowly empties it onto both James and the girl. It is apparent that Neal doesn't give two shits about civilian casualties. The roar has stopped. Kids are all huddled into the corner aside from me, the two tards, and the poor girl caught in the mix. Teachers signals for tard wranglers waiting outside. James and Neal are picked up and taken from the classroom. Neal is in complete and utter peace while being carried away. He simply waves at me, "Bye, Bill." And that was the end of the school's integration program after the girl who got wreck's parents attempted to sue the school. Neal, story of the lightning raptard. Be in 7th grade now. Haven't seen Neal in over a year. He and his parents moved to a different school district due to his previously mentioned problems with this one. Be in the 3rd marking period. It's okay, not the same without Neal though. Walking down the hall one day, lo and behold, Neal is walking down the hall, all 5 feet of him. Run up to him. Hey Neal, you coming back to the school again? Hey Bill. He now is his own personal tard wrangler at all times except for lunch, who explains everything to me. Unfortunately, I have no classes with Neal due to the whole integration system being destroyed by the wrath of Neal. I see him in the halls all the time though. You see, the thing about our middle school is that it has multiple buildings, which you have to travel outside to get to. As I mentioned before, Neal possesses lightning speed, which he doesn't display very often. One day while I'm walking to woodshop with my friends, I see something blaze past me followed by a familiar noise, the lightning raptard's mighty roar. 50 feet behind him is the Wrangler, unable to keep up with him. Everybody looks on in shock as Neal plows directly through a small Asian girl carrying her books. As previously stated, Neal doesn't give two shits about civilian casualties. Neal looks behind to see how far he is from the Wrangler. He silences his roar as he can see that he's won. Neal fails to see the glass door directly in front of him and plows through that just as he did the Asian girl. Neal is out. Tard Wrangler finally catches up and picks up Neal to bring him back to the Tard HQ just as he comes back to consciousness. Neal sees me as he's being carried away. Hey Bill. Neal is back, everybody. So B, I was telling everybody my stories of Neal earlier and you seemed to like them, thought I might continue. Be in 6th grade still, only a week left of school. Mainly because me and my friends now let him sit at lunch with us and whatnot because he never disrupted anything, and there was always the possibility of Neal unleashing his wrath yet again. So James wasn't near him without Tard Wrangler supervision often. AI teacher thinks it would be a wonderful idea for us to throw an end-of-the-year party with tards. Teacher has no idea of the sequence of events she has set forth. This party is to be held 3 days before the end of school, and it has to be 80s themed. Be the day of the party, I have my hair slicked back and be in a white t-shirt because I'm lazy and unoriginal. The AI class has set up the entire thing, soda, candy, food, music, and whatnot. I talk to my friends as we wait for the tards to enter. The tards make their entrance into the gymnasium where this is being held. Most of the tards look, well, retarded. Neal is dressed up as Michael Jackson. He looks fucking badass. Neal walks over to us. Everybody says hi. Hey, Bill. Neal seems a little off today though. Lots of energy. Turns out Neal skipped out on his meds today. Not a very good thing. Neal equals ticking time bomb of raptardness. James walks over to us. I can already sense his bad intentions. Hey, Gaybo, what's up? Neal just stares at him, in a way I have never seen before. What's wrong with Neal? Neal drops his soda on the ground. Oh shit, minorities.jpg. Neal walks away. Wait, what? James shouts at him, "You gonna cry, gay-bo?" Neal walks behind one of the curtains in the gymnasium. Nothing can be seen in the darkness over there. A minute later, Neal appears all the way across the gym on top of the stage we had in there. He is completely naked, underwear and all, aside from the single glove that Michael wears. Engage Raptard Screech, the Tard Rage Invoker. The Tard's Frenzy. The downy Tard from my original story kicks over the stereo. Kids just wanna have fun. Continuously plays that single part of the song. There are no Wranglers around to subdue the Tards. The rage ensues. Neal jumps off the stage and charges James. James is tackled to the ground by the naked Neal. Get off me, gay-bo! Neal proceeds to rub his chode-like uncircumcised penis all over James's neck and chest. The roar is stopped. Who's the gay-bo now, James? Oh god, the sight was amazing. The Tards run out of the gymnasium crying and screaming now that they can think straight since the screech has ended. The only people left in the gymnasium are me, the teacher, and my friends looking at Neal wipe his phallus on James's face. Neal gets up off James. His deed has been done. He proceeds to get dressed again. Just before he finishes, the Tard Wranglers finally arrive. Too late, bros. The teacher retells the things that had ensued, and they walk over to carry Neal and James out. Neal walks up to me and hands me a quarter for no apparent reason. As he's being carried away, Neal looks just as peaceful as he always is, because he did not give a single fuck. He never did, and he never will. Neal waves as they exit through the double doors and screams, "Bye, Pill!" I wave back at Neal as this is the last time I will see him for over a year. Bye, Neal. I still have that quarter. So you guys want more? Neal, Clash of the Tards Part 2. Being the last marking period of 7th grade, Neal has been quiet for a while now because the principal claims that he will not deal with the same stuff the grade school did. Neal don't give a fuck, but he isn't active for a while. My classes no longer have a Tard day, so I don't get to see Neal as often. To my luck, my lunch is moved to the same period as all the Tards. Neal starts sitting with us again with the blessing of his Tard Wrangler. Everything is going fine, and then I see somebody walking over to us that looks familiar. Uh-oh, I can't say that one. It is James, and all of his dickishness. He has started to grow a pedophile-esque mustache. Tard got held back in the Tard classes. He is a foot behind Neal, just breathing. Why you guys let a gay-bo like Neal sit with you? I calmly tell him to go away, as I don't want to start any trouble. I stay if I want. Proceed to ignore him. Frustrated by nobody giving a fuck about him, he pushes Neal out of his seat and sits in it. Hey James, that wasn't nice. Let Neal sit down again. No, Neal is gay-bo. Neal has had enough of this shit. Commence the raptard screech. The new lot of Tards have yet to feel the wrath of Neal's screech rattle through their brains, making them ultra-sensitive. Tards all rage, food is thrown, it happened to be hot dog day, tiny meat penis replicas were flying everywhere. Neal picks up a hot dog and starts smacking him in the neck and chest with it, while simultaneously screeching directly into James's eardrum. Kinda reminded me of Neal rubbing his dick on James's chest. The Wranglers are almost done restraining the raging Tards and are about to move on to Neal and James. Neal sees this and goes for the finisher. He raises his hand just as he did for the first Clash of the Tards, Falcon Punch charging. Just as the last of the raging Tards is restrained, Neal hits James in the nuts as if he's trying to kill all of the little James that are stored up in there. James faints out of the pain. Neal silences his screech, sits down and eats the hot dog he had just rubbed all over James. The Tard Wranglers have finally arrived and carry them both off to HQ as the cafeteria watches in awe. Neal looks as if nothing is wrong. He simply waves at me and utters that familiar slur of words. Bye, Pill. Score, Neal 2, James 0. Neal and the new special ed teacher. Be in 8th grade now. First marking period. Old special ed teacher quit for personnel. I personally think she couldn't handle the wrath of Neal. This year, there's a special class you can take if you were interested in using a period of your day to help the Tards. Obviously, I signed up in order to be with Neal, more so I could make sure I see if any more hilarity ensues. I walk into Tard HQ that day and there is a new teacher. She's young, seems to really enjoy what she's doing. Everything looks as if it has been going well for the day. Her day is about to take a very unexpected turn for the worse. I am sitting down on the carpet with Neal, helping him read a book on Dr. Seuss. This kid really fucking loves his Dr. Seuss. Neal doesn't understand what half the words mean, so I do my best to help him by explaining the meanings. We come across a word that neither of us knew. Neal thinks I am only not telling him because I want him to figure it out for himself, which I did sometimes just because I felt it was better for him than me just telling him. Neal is starting to get very frustrated, and for the first time it is directed at me, not somebody else. Oh god, please help me, .jpg. I do my best to calm him down, but he is stuck on the thought that I know what it means. Neal engages in the mighty raptard burst roar. I am going to die. It didn't matter that I was half a foot taller than him. I was scared shitless. Everybody except the teacher knows what is about to happen. They just watch in horror as there is nothing they can do. Teacher runs over thinking she can help. Bad idea. Neal engages his raptard Screech, enraging his tard brethren. James is on the floor pissing himself. The others are throwing shit at each other in the utter rage that Neal's Screech invokes. The teacher gets hit with a stapler, traveling at speeds previously unseen by man. Neal now turns toward me and stops his Screech momentarily to talk. Tell me what it mean, Pill. In desperation, I tell him it is a bad word that nobody is supposed to say. Neal believes me entirely. He goes the rest of his life, as far as I know, convinced that acumen is just as bad of a word as fuck. All of his anger immediately disappears. He gives me that toothy grin and simply sits back down as if I had shared a secret with him. I sit down next to him and he whispers to me, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone what Ackerman means." Okay, Neal. Tard Wranglers burst through the door. One carries Neal, the other carries the new teacher to the nurse's office. As Neal is exiting Tard HQ, his toothy grin remains. Bye, Pill. She has no idea what the fuck she is getting into. Neal brings his pet turtle to school. Be in 8th grade still in the first marking period. The new teacher thinks it would be a wonderful idea for people to bring in things to show the class. Every day it's a different student. He brings in his pet turtle Jimmy in to show the class. Everything seems to be going well for the show and tell. Neal is passing around the turtle for people to hold. I mean, it's a fucking turtle. What could happen, right? Seeing as nothing good is going on, I leave to go to the bathroom. Take a piss in probably what is 3 minutes. It was a very long piss. I walk back to the classroom and utter chaos has ensued. Neal is screaming, "Jimmy, Jimmy, where are you?" while one of the tards is crying in the corner. I'm assuming Neal let loose a short screech for a second to get everyone's attention. The turtle was gone. Apparently he was lost among all the handling him around. Do you hear me? They lost a fucking turtle. I run up to Neal asking him what is wrong. "Jimmy is gone." Okay, Neal, calm down. I'll find Jimmy. I start looking around. I search fucking everywhere. Turtle is nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, that fucker James walks in. He's got a big retard grin on his face, and he has been gone since right after I left. Neal immediately catches on and commences the tard screech. Shit goes from chaos to pure clusterfuck in seconds. Not only is Jimmy the fucking turtle gone, now I have a raging mob of tards in a close space. I scream to James over all of the noise. "Where is Jimmy?" "My ears hurt!" James is now crying and is of no use. I see a sliver of green in the back of the room in the corner of my eye. I investigate the site. It is Jimmy the fucking turtle halfway under a beanbag. He was there the entire time. I pick him up and present him to Neal, who is overcome with happiness to have Jimmy back. "Jimmy, thanks, Pill!" The new teacher still isn't able to handle shit, and she is just sitting in the corner of the room. Neal's screech may have stopped, but the tard rage hasn't. A tard finds a stapler yet again, and boom! It connects with Miss Springer while breaking the sound barrier. Out cold. Tard Wranglers burst into the room and subdue the tards. Neal is perfectly fine, so he is left in Tard HQ this time, but apparently it was my fault Jimmy was lost. I am dragged out by the principal who accompanied the Wranglers. The last thing I see is Neal, sitting there in the corner with Jimmy. Bye, Pill. I got a fucking week of detention. Neal and the Secret Admirer. So in Neal's class, there was one Jody. Jody was an above average height, ugly as fuck, half-functioning tard who always wore these fucking berets. She was annoying as fuck. All she would ever do is make blatant lies. And she knew nobody believed her. I mean, she had to. One time she said she was related to Leonardo da Vinci and she had some stuff autographed by him. And she's fucking Irish, but I digress. So it turns out she secretly had a crush on Neal. I found this out in a rather frightening way though. One day during gym was the only class integrated, I was cornered by Jody and her nasty fucking odor. Seriously, this girl didn't know how to use deodorant. I swear her stench could counteract Saddam's mustard gas. So she cornered me in gym and whispers in my ear, "Pill, you're friends with Neal, right?" "Yeah, what about it?" "Do you think he might like me?" I immediately did a littler duck and ran to the safety of my decent smelling friends. Later that day I saw Neal and asked him if he liked Jody. "Jody is gross. She smelled like Jimmy's pee." I laughed and dropped the subject because it obviously would never happen. As I left the Tard HQ to go to my next class, I was cut off by Jody. "So what did he say, Pill?" "Sorry, he doesn't like you." "What?" "Oh shit, not again.jpg. Jody runs over toward Neal at the pace of a muscular dystrophy child. She begins screaming in some kind of high-pitched tone, almost like her own raptard roar, but nowhere near the magnitude of Neal's. Neal takes this as a challenge and unleashes the most mind-deafening raptard screech I have heard yet. Jody is cut off mid-scream. The power of Neal's is just overwhelming. The tards go batshit instantly. It was as if World War Tard had hit the Tard HQ. Miss Springer was now a little better at handling the situation, but she was nowhere near capable of handling this. This time she had the common sense to get under her desk before the stapler in her head have a collision that rivals the power of the Haiti earthquakes. I try to calm Neal down, but it is futile. The Tard Wranglers finally arrive before the Tards could reach full Hulk mode and are able to restrain them. Neal stops his screech, seeing that the situation no longer requires it as Jody is subdued. The Tard Wranglers pick him up and carry him out of Tard HQ yet again. I wave at Neal as he's carried out the door, peaceful as he is every time. Bye, Pill. Jody smelt like fucking shit if I didn't get that across enough in the story. Chronicles of Neal. The staplers are coming. Be in 8th grade still. Be 3rd marking period now. Neal and I have been just chilling for quite some time in that class. Nothing terrible has happened in a while. I start to think that I would never see the wrath of Neal again. Lol, think again. So Neal had recently got his first cell phone. His parents bought it for him so they could keep better tabs on him and whatnot. Neal loved the new phone and texted me frequently. As far as I know, I'm the only one he texted. So while we were sitting in class one day, the teacher actually attempted to teach the Tard something. Neal sent a text to me saying hi. Miss Springer saw him send this message, unfortunately. She made the very terrible mistake of taking Neal's shitty cell phone. Neal didn't take to this too kindly. In fact, he took it terribly. As soon as she took it out of his hand, he let out a raptard screech so fearsome it made Miss Springer drop his phone. At this point, Neal thought she had broke his phone and went full-on rage mode. I made no attempts to calm him down because she had brought this upon herself. The Tards ran rampant. It was as if Neal was a lion Tard and he was leading an army of Tards against Miss Springer. All he needed was the blue face paint. The Tards commenced their attack on anything within their reach. The very same Tard as the previous times was in reach of the stapler, and this time Miss Springer wasn't smart enough to hide it under her desk. That Tard grabbed the stapler and hurled it with all his might. When it connected with Miss Springer, it was as if Chernobyl had happened in her head. And she's down for the count. 1, 2, why even bother? She was fucking out. Now that it appeared as if somebody had suffered extreme head trauma, I figured I might as well help a little. Turns out Neal's phone was fine. The battery just fell out. I put it back in and handed it to him, and he returned to his realm of not giving a fuck about the damage he had caused. Turns out Neal was leaving early that day, so he bailed before the Tard Wranglers even got there to clean up the mess. Neal just walks out the door looking at his phone, and simultaneously waving to me behind him. Bye, Pill. See ya, Neal. Don't fuck with Neal's shit. Clash of the Tards Part 3 it is. Be in 8th grade. Be in 4th marking period now. Shit has been far from smooth for Neal lately. As I said before, he destroyed some bitch recently and wasn't sparing a single fuck to give about it. Cause of this, Tard Wrangler has been paying close attention to Neal, trying to prevent him from getting into any more trouble. Lol, nice try. During the period that I helped the Tards out, there was a major Tard emergency on the other side of the school. It required all Tard Wranglers, so Neal was left alone for the time being. As soon as the Tard Wrangler is out, someone was walking over to us. It's James the dickhead, no doubt approaching to start shit with Neal. Neal was playing Pac-Man free trial on his phone and could not give a shit about anything else going on. James is now standing directly in front of us. Hey Pill, why are you always with Neal? James, just leave please, go read or something. But I want to see what Neal is doing. What you doing, Neal? Neal is completely focused on the Pac-Man game and nothing else. James grows angry that Neal doesn't let him see what he's playing. James grabs the phone from Neal mid-game. As James looks at the phone, all you can hear is the womp 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 sound of Pac-Man dying. Bad idea, James. Bad idea. Neal emits the raptard rage as he stares at James with the fury of 1,000 burning midgets. James is now able to resist the screech to an extent, but it is futile nonetheless. His future was set the second he touched Neal's phone. Neal approaches James with very blatant, cruel intentions. When Neal is within striking distance, he begins to cock back his leg back as far as possible. The Tard Wrangler is now turning the handle of the door. It's too late now though, James' manhood is about to be decimated. Neal unleashes the most powerful kick ever performed by man. When it collided with James' nuts, it was as if there was a disturbance in the force. James drops, and for the second time now, he was throwing up due to Neal's intentions of making sure his family line ends with him. The Tard Wrangler restrains Neal as fast as possible. Although it wasn't needed, Neal had stopped his screech now and was back to his oh-so-blissful state. As he was being yanked out the door, he waves over to me. Bye, Phil. Got a text 15 minutes later. Hi, Phil. People really need to learn to not fuck with Neal's shit. Neal versus Barb the bitch. Be in 8th grade still. Be in the final few months of school before summer starts. Kinda sad that I'm not gonna see Neal for a while again. Walking to Tard HQ with Neal in between periods. Neal wasn't paying very much attention, as usual. He was just talking and looking down at his feet as if he was mystified by how they allowed him to walk. I see Barb the bitch walking down the hallway in the corner of my eyes. Barb got this nickname because, well, she's a huge bitch, even to Tards. Since Neal wasn't paying attention, he walks directly into Barb and knocks her onto the ground. He quickly says sorry and motions to help her up. The bitch smacks his hand out of the way and starts to yell, "Why don't you just watch where you're going?" Poor decisions.jpg. Neal takes this as an imminent threat and unleashes his short burst roar, his only warning that he is about to slap someone's shit. Barb continues to yell, "Why are you making that sound, needle dick?" I begin to grow angry with her. Barb, what the hell is your problem? Neal just puts his arm in front of me like he's telling me he's got this. Neal dives for her legs and she topples over. She struggles, but Neal has engaged his raptard strength. Resistance is futile. He gets into a full mount position on top of her and positions his head directly over hers. The roar has stopped. What.jpg? All that can be heard throughout the hall is the sound of phlegm being drawn up somebody's throat. It's Neal. He slowly lets out the nastiest loogie I have ever seen drip out of his mouth and directly onto her forehead. It seeped onto her forehead and then down the sides of her head. Barb proceeded to cry and gag so hard she was choking. Neal sees this as a sign that he has won and releases her from his tard strength grapple. He says, "Come, Bill," motioning over toward the tard HQ. It was as if he erased the memory from his head entirely, and it was glorious. Neal breaks the new Wrangler. Be in 8th grade. Be about halfway through the year. As I said before, Neal is the lightning raptard. He is fast as hell. Well, he put this particular asset to good use against his new Wrangler. While at lunch one day, the new Wrangler wasn't paying much attention. He greatly underestimated the power of Neal. While the dumb fuck was busy flirting with one of the substitute teachers, Neal slipped the fuck out to go somewhere. Tard Wrangler finally notices and asks me what happened to him. I don't know. It's your job to keep track of them. He runs down the hall. I follow out of curiosity. We go to the main walkway. Neal is nowhere to be found, but his pants are on top of the trash can. We hear a scream come from the building we were just in. Turns out Neal had scared some of the girls walking down the hall. Neal has now been running for a good 15 minutes straight at full speed. This would be hard for anyone to maintain. Neal is finally found by the two of us. The tard guard grabs him by the wrist and pulls him toward the bathroom to put his pants back on. Neal mumbles, "I don't feel so good." Neal engages Tard Foo grip on the tard guard's wrist. It is a well-known fact that the Tard Foo grip is unbreakable. The Wrangler tries to free his wrist to no avail. Neal throws up that day's lunch he had. Pizza, fries, and juice all over the Wrangler's pants and shoes. He sighs in disgust and tosses Neal into the bathroom. Neal begins his tard screech due to the excessive force used on him. Thankfully, no tards were in nearby range. I help calm Neal down, and he tells the principal that the Wrangler hurt him. Wrangler is ultimately fired a week later for this, all because he was a dumb fuck. Don't flirt with the substitutes when you should be watching Neal. They aren't even hot. Neal vs. Tard Wrangler Part 2. Be in 8th grade still. Be almost the end of the year, only a month or so left. School has decided to try tard integration again. Bad idea. Neal has now been assigned a much more seasoned Tard Wrangler. He has his eyes on Neal at all times. Neal fucking hates him, even more than the last. Just so turns out that I got Neal integrated into my woodshop class. Woodshop teacher is an old fat man with a large white beard who does not deal with any shit at all due to the possible dangers of his class. Why they let tards into woodshop I will never know. Tard Wrangler is only allowed to watch from outside the classroom as to not disturb the class. Be learning how to make a shelf. Requires us to use a jigsaw. Neal goes to use the jigsaw, completely disregards all safety precautions. Woodshop teacher sees this and shits a brick. Runs over to Neal shouting, "What the hell do you think you're doing? Did you just ignore everything I said? Get out of here!" Neal's eyes light up with fury at the woodshop teacher's showing of aggression. Engage Raptard Roar short burst mode. I prepare for shit to be wrecked. Woodshop has yet to encounter Neal and has no idea what the fuck is going on. He continues to shout aggressively. "What the hell are you doing, kid? I said get out!" Neal has had enough of Santa Claus's shit. Neal tosses the hunk of wood at the old man at full force. It connects with his head with the power of 12 large hadron colliders. Santa is out cold. The seasoned Tard Wrangler sees this and immediately jumps into action. He runs directly at Neal and lunges for him. Too slow for the lightning raptard. Neal avoids it and runs for the door. Wrangler saw this coming and locked the door after he came in. Neal begins to panic. He has never faced a Wrangler this good. Wrangler begins to corner Neal. Neal senses his defeat is imminent. He silences his raptard roar as the Wrangler closes in. He shouts at the Wrangler, "A crewman!" referring to acumen, what he thought was a word equivalent to fuck due to a previous encounter. The Wrangler picks up Neal and prepares to bring him to Tard HQ. Neal has stopped his resistance entirely. For once someone has bested Neal. What is happening.jpg? Neal just waves to me and utters that familiar slur of words. Bye, Pill. This was the only man I had ever seen best Neal, and it was the only time Neal was ever beat, even by that Wrangler. In future incidents, Neal wrecks this seasoned Wrangler. Neal vs. Tard Wrangler 3, Neal's Revenge. Be in 8th grade still. Be about a week after the previous incident. Surprisingly, the school has still kept the whole tard integration thing going. Neal has had it up to his head, only 5 feet, with his new Wrangler's shit. He refuses to give him an inch of space, not even during lunch when Neal chills with me and my friends. Neal has been planning this. He had to have. Something so elaborate could not have just simply come out of thin air, even for Neal. Neal waits until lunch to unleash his wrath. Remember, all of the tards eat lunch at the same time with all the regular kids. Be eating lunch happens to be taco day. Neal out of the blue unleashes the most violent of his raptard screeches I have ever heard. The fuck.jpg? Neal was unprovoked, and I was very confused as he did not let me in on his plan. Tards start to go bitch tit crazy. Meat, rice, and cheese are soaring over our heads. I duck down as to avoid the carnage, but continue to watch Neal. The seasoned Wrangler starts his approach to apprehend Neal. Not happening, bro. Neal fucking books using his lightning raptard speed. All the way on the other side of the cafeteria in milliseconds. Tard Wrangler picks up speed in order to keep pace with Neal, but stops paying attention to the ground. Neal has started to remove his clothes by now. Tard Wrangler's foot hits a pile of taco meat that had been thrown by raging tards and does a cartoon-style slip right onto his back, now covered in taco ingredients. Neal has completed the process of undressing. He is letting his uncircumcised penis hang for everyone to see. Neal begins to charge the Tard Wrangler. The students look on in horror to the events unfolding before their very eyes, but they could not fathom what was going to happen. Continuing his mighty raptard screech, Neal dives on top of the Wrangler. Engage Tard strength. Even the full-grown Wrangler is not able to fight off Neal's immense Tard strength. Neal silences his raptard screech and scoops up the stray taco ingredients, shoving them directly into his mouth. He chews it all into a half-digested puree. He's gonna do it.jpg. He positions his head directly above the Wranglers, just as he had with Barb the bitch earlier that year, and regurgitates this taco spit puree onto the face of the Wrangler. Neal has had his revenge and sees no reason to continue the onslaught. He gets off the disoriented, taco-covered Wrangler and gets dressed once again. The raging mob of tards have almost all been subdued by the other Tard Wranglers. Neal is picked up by one Wrangler and dragged towards the cafeteria exit, as another tends to the seasoned Tard Wrangler's wounds. Neal is in complete harmony. He simply waves goodbye to me and shouts in my direction, "Bye, Pill!" All the while holding a very toothy grin, because he knows that he has broke the Super Wrangler. Nobody is free from the wrath of Neal. Neal, story of the Tard Ball game. Be in 8th grade. Be in last 2 weeks finally. Miss Springer has organized a baseball game for the Tards and all the kids who help them during that one period a day. B day of event. Walk up to Neal, who is sitting on home plate. You ready for the game, bud? Hey, Bill. Turns out Neal doesn't like baseball very much. James walks up to Neal and I before the game commences. I'm gonna kick your butt, Gaybo. Neal doesn't give a fuck, as usual, and I simply disregard the Tard. All he wants to do is sit in the outfield until this shit is over, but he has taken a liking to the batting part. B. Neal's turn to bat. Miss Springer is pitching underhand to all the Tards. She has obviously underestimated Neal's power despite her previous encounters. Miss Springer throws the ball. Neal misses his first swing. I hear James over at second base. Haha, yeah, Gaybo, you're bad. She tosses the ball a second time, and Neal misses yet again. James feels it is necessary to continue taunting Neal. Told you I'd beat you, Gaybo. Neal has had enough of his shit. Serious face.jpg. Miss Springer tosses the ball to Neal a third and final time. Neal hits that fucker with all of his Tard strength. It was as if the spirit of Babe Ruth had been reincarnated into a Tard. The ball blazed towards James with the speed of 1,000 blazing racial slurs. Oh shit.jpg. Boom! The ball cracks against his skull. Sweet dreams, James. He's out fucking cold. Miss Springer is now having a fucking breakdown. I personally think she should be praising God that the speeding object did not hit her for once. She begins to shout at Neal. Why do you always have to cause trouble? Neal does not like being yelled at. Neal, taking the sign of aggression to heart, commences his mighty raptard screech. The shitstorm is upon us. The Tards run rampant. They have been consumed in rage. Tards are ramming other Tards while wearing their batting helmets. Others are throwing balls at the helpers at near Mach 2 speeds due to their Tard strength. Thank God there was only one bat and it was possessed by Neal. Tard Wranglers jump into action. Despite being seriously under-equipped, they put up a good fight. The Tard apocalypse was happening directly in front of me, and I got front row seats. Chubby Tard from my original story, who was KO'd by the door, now has on a batting helmet and obviously cannot be affected by head injury. He charges Miss Springer with his mighty Tardnoceros stampede. The mighty Tardnoceros hits Miss Springer with the combined tackling power of Ray Lewis and Lawrence Taylor. Down for the count. Neal has won his battle and ceases his raptard screech. The Tards are almost completely wrangled now, and the Wrangler begins to approach Neal to restrain him. Neal has no intention of putting up a fight. He is now content that he has had his revenge. As Neal is carried back to Tard HQ by the Wrangler, he waves back toward me at the baseball field. Bye, Pill. See you tomorrow, Neal. Bitches ain't got shit on Neal's athleticism. And unfortunately, that's the end of that story. We don't know if anything else happened, but honestly, we've got one hell of a tale, and I enjoyed every bit of it. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster, and I feel like I got a lot of moral fiber out of those stories. But anyway, if you like what I do, leave a comment, rate, and subscribe. If you want to support me in a more personal way, you can check out the Patreon link and the Teespring link in the description. I've got more content coming down the pipeline. But until then, I'll see you degenerates next time.